The crowd at Arlington Cemetery stood in quiet respect. The wind whispered through the marble columns, and the rhythmic footsteps of the tomb guard echoed like the heartbeat of tradition itself. Every motion was precise, every turn deliberate, a living symbol of discipline and sacrifice. But then, out of nowhere, a woman stepped forward. Her name was Evelyn, and her heels clicked sharply against the pavement as she broke the invisible barrier separating onlookers from sacred duty. People in the crowd murmured, unsure of what they were seeing. Some raised their phones, others frowned. A child instinctively grabbed her father's sleeve. The guard didn't flinch. He continued his path with unwavering focus, rifle at his shoulder, eyes locked forward. His posture was iron. His silence was louder than any warning. Evelyn kept walking. Her jaw was set, her eyes burning with defiance, the kind that comes from believing you can bend any rule. And then, she reached out her hand. The collective gasp from the crowd was immediate. "She's not," someone whispered. In one shocking, disrespectful motion, Evelyn grabbed the shining medal pinned to the guard's chest, a medal symbolizing years of training, discipline, and fallen comrades, and ripped it off. The medal clattered onto the stone floor, the sound piercing through the heavy silence. For a split second, the world froze. The guard stopped midst. The air itself seemed to tighten, as if the entire cemetery was holding its breath. Veterans in the audience stiffened. One old man clenched his fist. The child who had been watching whispered softly, "Dad, what's she doing?" Evelyn expected chaos, shouting, pushing, guards swarming her. She expected him to break, but instead, he simply looked at her. No anger, no panic, just a cold, disciplined stare that cut deeper than any words could. His boots planted firmly, shoulders squared. He turned to face her, the first time he had deviated from his exact pattern all day. Reporters at the back clicked photos. Phones zoomed in. This was the moment. And then, the guard finally spoke. His voice was low, steady, and chilling. "Ma'am," he said, "you just crossed a line no one should ever cross." The crowd erupted in whispers. Evelyn froze, medal still clenched in her trembling hand. What happened next would turn this quiet ceremony into a worldwide viral moment, a battle of arrogance versus tradition, and one woman's shocking lesson in respect. Before that chilling moment on the plaza, the man behind the uniform had already lived through storms that few could imagine. His name was Staff Sergeant Michael Harris, a soldier forged in the furnace of war. Years ago, in the dusty plains of Afghanistan, Michael's unit had walked into an ambush. A roadside bomb ripped through their convoy, turning a routine patrol into a nightmare. Michael survived, barely. His best friend, Corporal Dean Walker, DIDN, T.D, had been the one who kept morale alive when everything else felt hopeless. He'd talk about baseball, home-cooked meals, and the future they'd build after the war. When Dean was killed, Michael carried his dog tags home, along with the weight of an unspoken promise to honor the fallen, not with tears, but with discipline and duty. After his recovery, Michael volunteered for the Old Guard, the elite soldiers who watch over the tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington. The selection was brutal, months of drills, perfection demanded in every movement, every glance. A single blink out of rhythm meant starting over. But for Michael, this was more than ceremony. This was his way of keeping Dean's spirit alive. When he finally earned the right to wear that ceremonial uniform and guard the tomb, his Medal of Excellence was pinned on his chest, a quiet tribute to both his discipline and his loss. That medal would later end up in Evelyn's hand. On the other side of this story was Evelyn Chambers, a name that, until that day, was known mostly in political circles. She came from old money, her family wrapped in influence like armor. Her father was a senator, her mother a decorated diplomat. Evelyn grew up with every door already open, every barrier cleared, but privilege had sharpened her into someone who believed rules bent for her. She wasn't cruel by nature, she was entitled by design. Her life revolved around elite galas, private meetings, and televised appearances. She was often called the unshakable Evelyn in gossip columns. On that morning, Evelyn had come to Arlington not to honor, but to be seen. A veterans' charity event was being held near the tomb, and cameras were everywhere. Her team had prepped her with sound bites about respecting the armed forces, but her mind was elsewhere, annoyed at delays, irritated by security, and focused on controlling the narrative. As she approached the plaza with her entourage, she noticed the tomb guard's silent march. She whispered to her aide, "Why is he ignoring us? It's their duty." "Ma'am," the aide replied nervously. "They don't break focus," Evelyn scoffed. "Everyone looks at me when I arrive." Everyone. Meanwhile, Michael stood in ceremonial precision, his mind calm but anchored to memory. Every 21 steps he took mirrored the 21-gun salute, the highest honor. His polished rifle caught the morning light. His boots struck the ground in a rhythm older than anyone in the crowd. He wasn't looking at faces. He wasn't hearing the chatter. His training had taught him to see without reacting, to feel without flinching. To him, this was sacred ground, but he did notice her. Out of the corner of his eye, the woman in the designer coat had that look, the kind that hinted at confrontation. He'd seen it before, tourists stepping too close, teenagers testing boundaries. But there was something different about Evelyn's stride. She walked not like a curious visitor, but like someone approaching a stage. The plaza that day was packed. Tourists, schoolchildren, veterans, and reporters had gathered for the ceremony. Some stood in silence, others whispered explanations to their kids. A veteran in a wheelchair saluted as Michael passed. The air was crisp. Flags fluttered. It was the kind of morning where tradition feels alive, where even the sound of footsteps demands respect. As Evelyn moved closer, some in the crowd noticed. Is she allowed to go there? A teacher whispered. A guard near the perimeter took a step forward. Unsure whether to intervene, Evelyn had clearance to be in the area because of her political family. But clearance wasn't the same as permission to disrupt. Her entourage hesitated, sensing her brewing impulse. Ma'am, maybe we should stay back. Evelyn raised her hand dismissively. Relax, it's just a ceremony. To her, the guard was just another part of the set, a prop in her carefully curated moment. She didn't understand, not yet, that she was stepping into a living symbol older than her family's entire political legacy. The plaza seemed to shrink as Evelyn approached closer, her eyes fixed on the tomb guard with a mixture of irritation and curiosity. She whispered to her aide, "Why isn't he acknowledging me? Do they even notice people?" Her voice carried enough for those nearby to hear, drawing small glances from the crowd. Some murmured quietly, sensing the tension. Others instinctively raised their phones. Recording the unfolding drama, Michael kept walking, his face a mask of stoicism, his gaze forward. Every step was deliberate, every movement precise, a demonstration of silent control. Behind him, the polished stones of Arlington reflected the morning light, highlighting the stark contrast between ceremonial order and Evelyn's impatient energy. The crowd, at first admiring the guard's precision, now shifted uneasily. Veterans frowned, tourists whispered among themselves, children clutched their parents' sleeves, unsure why the air had suddenly thickened. Evelyn's frustration grew. She had expected acknowledgement, perhaps even admiration. Instead, she found unyielding silence. She stepped closer, her designer heels clacking against the stone floor, echoing unnervingly in the solemn atmosphere. "Do you always ignore people like this?" she asked, louder now, her tone sharp. The words cut through the ceremony like a gust of wind disturbing still waters. Michael didn't respond. He maintained his pace, shoulders squared, eyes forward, each step a lesson in discipline. The silence from him was louder than any shouting could have been. The crowd shifted. Some began to sense that a confrontation was imminent. A veteran muttered under his breath, "Don't provoke him." Another whispered to a friend, "Something bad is about to happen." Evelyn reached out, touching the edge of his ceremonial jacket. "Excuse me," she snapped. Her fingers brushed the gleaming metal pinned to his chest, and she gave it a light tug. Michael's gaze finally flickered toward her, but his posture did not falter. His face remained emotionless, yet the crowd could feel the invisible tension radiating from him. A few people gasped. One child in the front row clutched her father's hand tightly, eyes wide. Reporters raised cameras, capturing the moment that seemed to stretch indefinitely. The guard's silence became an almost tangible force, pressing down on Evelyn, reminding her that not all authority comes with words. Evelyn, however, had no intention of backing down. She pulled a little harder, testing boundaries, expecting him to flinch, to react, to step aside. Instead, Michael's foot remained firmly planted, and his grip on his rifle tightened slightly. The subtle motion was enough to send a message without a single word. "You are crossing a line." The crowd's reactions multiplied. Veterans bristled. Tourists whispered warnings. Some began recording videos, instinctively knowing that what was happening was unprecedented. Children looked confused and scared, sensing the conflict but not fully understanding the rules being broken. The tension was electric. The plaza had become a battlefield of respect versus arrogance, and everyone in the crowd was caught in the crossfire. Evelyn's impatience escalated. She leaned closer, now blatantly challenging him. "You think you're better than everyone else?" she demanded, her voice sharp and high, echoing against the marble. Michael continued forward, each movement measured, His eyes, unwavering, projected discipline that dwarfed her aggression. A journalist's camera clicked repeatedly, capturing Evelyn's smirk, the medal glinting in her hand, and Michael's unwavering posture. The crowd's whispers grew into a murmur of disbelief. How could one person hold such order while chaos attempted to storm in? Some members of the audience began to mutter their disapproval, shaking their heads. One veteran whispered harshly, "She has no idea who she's messing with." Evelyn wasn't done. She stepped even closer, reaching directly for the medal. The motion was audacious, almost theatrical. The crowd gasped audibly this time. A hush fell over the plaza. Michael's boots struck the stone floor in deliberate, slow steps. Each footfall emphasized the gravity of his presence. He did not raise his voice. He did not make a move to grab her hand. He simply advanced. A human wall of unwavering discipline. The tension snapped when Evelyn yanked the medal entirely from his chest. It fell with a metallic clatter to the stone beneath them. A collective intake of breath rose from the crowd. Shock rippled across faces. The child whispered, "Dad, what's happening?" The veteran's jaw tightened. The journalist's lenses focused, capturing the moment of ultimate disrespect against the tomb guard. Michael finally stopped, turning to face her. He remained perfectly still, his shoulders squared, his rifle held naturally at his side. The silence was deafening. Evelyn held the medal in her hand, expecting perhaps indignation or an apology, but all she got was stillness. The kind of stillness that comes from years of training, from facing danger, and from living through battles that test more than just physical strength. The crowd felt it. The air seemed to hold its breath. The veterans stiffened, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Children watched with wide eyes. The reporters continued filming, knowing that the world would soon witness something extraordinary. Michael's gaze was unflinching, unyielding, and calm, a silent statement that chaos could not overpower discipline, and arrogance would not override honor. Evelyn's confidence faltered for the first time. The medal felt heavier in her hand. The aura of authority and restraint emanating from Michael pressed upon her like a wall. She realized, too late, that the man standing before her was not just a ceremonial guard. He was the embodiment of decades of sacrifice, training, and integrity. And as the crowd watched, a sense of anticipation built. Everyone knew something was about to happen. A lesson in respect was about to unfold, and no one in that plaza would ever forget it. Evelyn's hand trembled slightly as she clutched the medal. The sound of it striking the stone still lingered in the air, a metallic echo that seemed louder than anything else in the plaza. The crowd's murmurs escalated into gasps and whispers, like a rising tide threatening to overflow. Veterans exchanged tense glances. Children hid behind parents' legs. Reporters' cameras clicked rapidly, capturing every detail. It was a moment frozen in disbelief. For Evelyn, the medal was a trophy, a way to assert dominance, to bend a tradition to her will. But as she raised it higher, ready to flaunt it, Michael finally spoke. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm, steady, and deliberate. "Do you understand what you just did?" Evelyn paused, caught off guard by the sheer authority behind the words. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. The air seemed to thicken with tension. Michael's eyes bore into her, and she felt as though every ounce of her arrogance was being stripped away with each heartbeat. She tried again, her tone sharp, defensive. I was just you crossed a line," Michael interrupted, his voice rising slightly, though still controlled. "This is not a game. This is a sacred duty. Every step I take, every motion I make, honors those who gave their lives so people like you can stand here without understanding the meaning of respect." The crowd went silent. Even the murmurs of children and tourists faded. Evelyn's aide muttered something under her breath, but Evelyn barely heard. She was frozen, the medal heavy in her hand, the weight of Michael's words settling like stones in her chest. She glanced at the crowd, seeking support, but all she saw were faces locked in awe, shock, or disapproval. Some veterans whispered, "Finally, someone who will teach her." Reporters clicked furiously, knowing this was no ordinary moment. It was history in motion. Evelyn, flustered, took a step back, but her instinct was still to assert control. "I don't," she began, but Michael's expression hardened. It wasn't anger, it was discipline made flesh. Without warning, he took a deliberate step forward. The ground seemed to hold its breath. Every eye in the plaza followed him. There was no rush, no flailing motion, only precise, controlled movement. He didn't reach for the medal, he didn't shout. He simply moved, and in that simple step, the weight of his authority filled the space around them. Evelyn's confidence wavered. The crowd sensed a shift. This was no longer a confrontation of words or minor gestures. It had become a collision of principles. arrogance versus discipline, chaos versus order, self-importance versus legacy. Michael stopped just a few feet from her. He raised his hand not to strike, not to grab, but to gesture toward the medal on the stone. "Return it," he said, his voice calm yet commanding, "and step back. Respect is not earned by entitlement, it is proven by restraint." For a moment, Evelyn froze completely. She stared at the medal, then at Michael, then at the crowd. Some of the reporters held their breath, waiting for her reaction. Some veterans shook their heads, silently counting on her to learn her lesson. The children, wide-eyed, felt the gravity of the moment without knowing why. Evelyn's hands shook. Pride and disbelief warred within her. She opened her mouth again, but the words died before leaving her lips. For the first time that day, she felt the weight of her mistake. It wasn't just a medal. It was years of honor, sacrifice, and discipline, and she had disrespected it in front of witnesses who would never forget. Then Michael spoke again, softer this time, but each word precise. "Tradition is not weakness. Discipline is not silence. Stillness is strength, and every person here is watching to see who you really are." Evelyn's fingers tightened around the medal. The crowd gasped again, sensing the turning point. She opened her hand slowly and let the medal slide across the stone back to Michael. The sound, once jarring, now felt like a bell of acknowledgement. The child at the front whispered, barely audible, "Hero." Michael nodded slightly, taking the medal and fixing it back onto his chest with a steady, unflinching motion. He turned his gaze back toward the path he had been marching. The crowd erupted in quiet applause, some veterans whispering, "That's how you teach respect." Evelyn stood frozen, her face pale, her hands now empty. The weight of the crowd's judgment pressed on her, heavier than any security or privilege she had ever known. For a fleeting moment, she understood that authority and respect cannot be stolen, they must be earned. And no medal, no privilege, no status could substitute for discipline. Reporters' cameras captured the moment in stunning detail. Evelyn, frozen. Michael, unwavering. The medal, restored. The plaza, silent but alive with tension. Phones were raised, the footage destined to circulate widely, capturing a lesson that transcended the ceremony itself. And then, Michael did something subtle but profound. He resumed his march, rifle in hand, each step a reminder that order can rise above chaos. The crowd watched in awe. Veterans saluted quietly. Tourists whispered among themselves. The child still clutched her parent's hand, eyes wide. Evelyn remained frozen, suddenly small in the shadow of true honor. It was over. Yet the moment would linger forever, lesson etched into the minds of everyone present. The turning point had been reached. The arrogant had been humbled. The disciplined had triumphed. And in that brief, electrifying instant, the world understood what Michael Harris had always known. Respect is not demanded. It is commanded by action, presence, and unwavering principle. The air shifted. The plaza returned to its ceremonial rhythm, yet the energy lingered. The story would be told and retold. Evelyn would never forget. The child would carry the memory. And the guard, he continued, as if nothing had happened, but in truth, he had changed the hearts of everyone watching. The crowd's collective tension had reached a boiling point, and all eyes were locked on Evelyn. For the first time, her carefully constructed confidence faltered. She had expected chaos, maybe an argument, or even a sharp rebuke, but not the immovable calm that now emanated from Michael Harris. Reporters whispered urgently, cameras clicking in rapid succession. The footage of Evelyn ripping the medal off the tomb guard was already going viral among the crowd, with phones recording, and whispers of "this will go online" spread like wildfire. Social media would see this before the ceremony even ended. Every click, every camera angle amplified her embarrassment. Evelyn's entourage shifted uneasily. Her aide tried to intervene, stepping forward with a nervous "Ma'am, maybe." Michael, however, didn't wait for her or for any interruption. He stepped forward once again, his boots striking the polished stone with purpose, and the plaza fell completely silent. There was no shouting, no overreaction, only the unmistakable presence of discipline meeting arrogance head-on. "Do you understand the gravity of what you've done?" Michael's voice cut through the hush, calm yet firm. Every word measured, every syllable deliberate. "This medal represents decades of service, lives lost, and a commitment that you have just disrespected in front of hundreds of witnesses." Evelyn's lips moved, but no sound came out. She was unprepared for such direct confrontation. For all her privilege, influence, and experience in commanding attention, she had never faced someone who refused to yield. A veteran in the crowd muttered under his breath, "Good, let her feel it." Another nodded, gripping the arms of their seat, eyes never leaving the scene. Children whispered anxiously to their parents, sensing the intensity but not fully understanding it. Then, Michael did something that would define the moment forever. He raised his hand slowly, pointing at the medal still pinned to his chest, and spoke, "Every eye here has seen your actions, and every camera, every phone, every witness will carry this moment. This is your lesson in respect." Evelyn's face paled, her fingers twitching. She opened her mouth to protest, but the words faltered under the weight of his unwavering stare. The crowd watched, captivated, as the woman who had walked with confidence now stood frozen, stripped of control, facing the undeniable truth of her misstep. Michael's voice softened, yet retained that unmistakable authority. "It is never too late to step back, to learn humility, and to respect the sacrifices of those who came before you. But disrespect is remembered, it is recorded, and it will follow you." A murmur ran through the crowd as if his words were not just directed at Evelyn, but at everyone witnessing the incident. Phones were raised higher, cameras zoomed in, the video clips would flood social media. A viral lesson in humility. Evelyn finally lowered her gaze, the defiance draining from her posture. The medal, symbolic and untouchable, seemed to glow against Michael's chest. She had come expecting recognition, control, perhaps even admiration, but she had been exposed in front of the entire plaza, her arrogance laid bare then. In a quiet but profoundly symbolic gesture, Michael resumed his march. His steps were slow, deliberate, and unwavering. The crowd's tension transformed into art. Veterans saluted silently. Tourists whispered, "Incredible." He didn't even raise his voice. Children mimicked the motion of his steady stride, as if instinctively understanding that true strength was in restraint, not aggression. Evelyn's entourage tried to steer her away, murmuring apologies and excuses. She remained frozen, her hands empty, her pride diminished, her lesson indelibly etched into her memory. The crowd's reaction was immediate and unanimous: shock, respect, and quiet admiration for the man who had turned a moment of chaos into one of moral clarity. Reporters lined up to get interviews. Every phone in the plaza captured angles of her frozen expression and Michael's calm precision. The viral nature of the incident was undeniable. The footage would circulate far beyond Arlington, a story of discipline prevailing over arrogance, calm over chaos. And as Michael continued his march, one child whispered again, just loud enough for a parent to hear, "He's a hero." Michael didn't smile. He didn't wave. He simply reminded the world of what true honor looks like. The lesson carried not through words alone, but through presence, action, and unwavering integrity. By the time the ceremony concluded, Evelyn had retreated, pale and subdued. The plaza returned to its measured rhythm, the echo of Michael's steps lingering like a testament to tradition and respect. The viral moment had occurred, recorded from dozens of angles, witnessed by hundreds, and destined to be seen by thousands more than in that instant. It was clear to everyone present: discipline cannot be broken by arrogance, and honor will always command respect. Evelyn had learned a lesson she would never forget. The world had been reminded of the power of restraint, and Michael Harris had quietly yet definitively turned chaos into clarity, leaving a mark on everyone who had witnessed it. The plaza had quieted. The echoes of footsteps and murmurs faded into the background, leaving only the soft rustle of flags in the breeze. Michael Harris stood alone for a moment, the medal resting securely on his chest, a symbol of discipline, sacrifice, and unwavering dedication. The world had watched, and in that silence, the weight of the day finally settled upon him. He glanced down at the small dog tags around his neck, worn smooth from years of service. Each tag told a story of friends lost, battles fought, and promises kept. Today's confrontation was yet another reminder of why he had chosen this path: to honor the past, to hold the present, and to set an example for the future. A colonel approached, saluting with the precision of someone who understood the gravity of the moment. "Well done, Sergeant," he said quietly, eyes steady. "You reminded everyone here what honor truly means." Michael returned the salute, nodding respectfully, yet his mind drifted to the quiet lessons of his own life. Nearby, the child from the front row peered up at him with wide eyes, whispering softly, barely audible over the gentle wind. The child said, "Hero." Michael allowed himself the briefest smile, a silent acknowledgement that the actions of the day had resonated far beyond ceremonial protocol. The crowd slowly dispersed. Reporters packed up cameras, still murmuring about the viral footage they had captured. Veterans lingered, some shaking their heads in quiet admiration, others nodding knowingly to one another. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of shared respect, a collective recognition that true discipline and honor cannot be shaken by momentary arrogance. Evelyn, meanwhile, had left the plaza. The lesson had not been lost on her. Her shoulders were slumped, and for the first time in a long while, the confidence she had worn like armor felt fragile. She had come seeking attention, expecting control, and had instead been confronted with the unshakable presence of someone who lived by principles far greater than herself. Michael returned to his post, the ceremony continuing in quieter, more solemn tones. Every motion he made, every step he took, was now imbued with an added layer of significance. He carried not only the weight of tradition but also the knowledge that he had turned a potential act of disrespect into a teaching moment for the world. As he paused briefly, looking at the horizon and the rows of silent tombstones, Michael thought of his fallen friends, of Dean and all the others who had given everything. He touched his dog tags lightly, a gesture of remembrance, and whispered to himself, "This is for you. This is for all of us." The medal, now firmly back in place, seemed to shine a little brighter under the morning light. It was more than metal. It was a reminder of resilience, composure, and unwavering dedication. Today, the medal had been tested, and the values it represented had endured, unbroken. Michael allowed himself a deep breath, the kind that carries both relief and quiet pride. The lesson was not just for Evelyn, the crowd, or the cameras. It was for anyone who might one day witness such a moment, reminding them that respect cannot be demanded, only demonstrated, and that true strength often lies in calmness, patience, and silent conviction. As the plaza emptied and the wind swept gently through the marble columns, Michael knew that the memory of today would linger for the crowd, for the child, and for the world watching online. It was a reminder that honor, discipline, and courage could shine even in the face of blatant disrespect. And in that quiet, reflective moment, the guard stood, as he always had, a living testament to the enduring power of integrity. The day was over, but the impact would echo for years. The plaza had emptied, but the lesson lingered like an echo across Arlington. Michael Harris stood at his post, motionless yet alive with the quiet strength that had captivated everyone who had witnessed the confrontation. Today was more than a ceremony. It was a reminder that discipline outlasts arrogance, and stillness carries more power than chaos. The child's whispered hero replayed in his mind, a small but powerful testament to the impact of integrity on those who are learning what true respect looks like. Veterans nodded in silent approval. Reporters would spread the story far and wide, and somewhere out there Evelyn would carry the memory of a lesson she could never unlearn. This moment was a reminder for all of us. Tradition is not weakness, composure is not submission, and respect is not optional. True strength is measured not by reaction, but by restraint. The world may rush, shout, and demand attention, but those who stand firm, calm, and principled leave a mark that lasts far beyond the noise. As Michael adjusted his uniform, the sun glinting off the medal he had reclaimed with calm authority, it was clear that this was a story not just of confrontation, but of values upheld under pressure, of integrity tested and proven, and of honor immortalized in action. If you were inspired by this story of courage, discipline, and unwavering respect, share this video with someone who needs a reminder of true strength. Comment below with what stood out to you most. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life moments where ordinary people demonstrate extraordinary honor, because in a world full of noise, it's the quiet, steadfast actions that resonate the loudest.